we take a couple Sundays every year and just kind of give you an update on where we're at as a church family. And the reason we do that is one of the most healthiest families I've known. When I see healthy families, there's a mark of that healthy family, and it's that they communicate. They sit the kids down, the parents talk about here's where we're going, here's what we're doing. Some of the most unhealthy families are families where they don't communicate. The kids have no idea where the money comes from. The kids have no idea how the money is spent. The kids have no concept of working and earning and this kind of sort of thing, and they just ask and ask and ask. Those often are times very dysfunctional families, and so we don't want to have a dysfunctional family, so we communicate, we talk, we share where we're going. I met with one family a couple months ago. Such a cool idea. You write this down. They had their 16-year-old daughter for part of her senior project. She had to run the family finances for, I think, 3 or 4 months, something like that. And so she had to, pay the bills, write out the checks, decide where the money was going to go, insurance checks and mortgage checks and food checks. And so we were having dinner with them, and they said, and in fact, we had to go to her to ask for money to come eat out tonight, and she said no. And so she's such a little, spindly, and we said, well, it's dinner with the pastor, and she was like, well, okay, make sure he picks up the tip. And so, what a great experience. I mean, to give their 16-year-old daughter a tangible way to understand how money works, so she understands it doesn't grow on trees, so she can appreciate it. So we do that here at GCC, just kind of communicate where we're at, so we know where we're all going, so we can be a strong, healthy family as we grow into the future. A few slides here that you should have in your bulletin there. Average attendance, as you can see, there's a bit of a trend. You can pick up on that, some of you who are more scientifically minded. A bit of a trend here, and actually 2014, the numbers are small because we've changed this year to a fiscal year. So we used to go calendar year, January to December. We've changed mid-year this year to transition to actual fiscal year, July to June. That explanation is in here if you want to read about it. Some of you don't care about that. Some of you really care about it. For those of you who care, it's there. For those of you who don't, I don't know. Roll it up and throw it at somebody. But it's there if you want it. There's our attendance average. Here's our annual income. As you see, it's grown every year. This year obviously is low because it's only half of the year. But we were actually on track if numbers trended equally throughout the rest of the year to hit about 1.2. So we've set a budget for this next year, 1.3. And the term we've given our budget is we're being aggressively conservative. And I'll explain that to you. It's in here as well. When we say aggressively conservative, studying church budgets can sometimes feel like trying to hit a dartboard blindfolded across the river riding backwards on a horse. I mean, it's really a lot of fun. But there are ways to quantify it, objectify it a little bit more, and I explain that to you in here in detail if you're interested. But one of the things we've said is we want to be aggressive with our faith and yet conservative with how we budget. So we set an aggressively conservative budget in this way. It's aggressive for where we're currently at. It's conservative for where we anticipate we're going to be. That makes sense. And so I explain that to you in detail in here if you'd like to find out more about that. And then here's just our expenses for the year, and you can read through those as well. As you see, we're under and over national averages in all the right places, I believe. National average for staffing, 60% we're under. Operations, we're over because we're doing a lot more work in the community. Facility, we're under. And then giving, we're over significantly. And the giving there is going to 4 or 5 major places because we have a giving philosophy, and it's called the principle of concentration. It's actually a military concept. But the point is we don't want to be mediocre contributors to 30 or 40 different so-so causes. We want to be the difference-making contributor to 5 or 6 strategic men and women on the ground in key gospel works. And so we take that principle of concentration and apply it to our giving. So we're currently funding 5 key church planners we feel are men and women of capacity that are doing gospel work in their city. Missionaries in Seattle we're supporting. We got missionaries in San Francisco we're supporting, and all over the globe. We'll talk more about that at our member meeting if you'll be there for that. Let's see, a couple things I want to just highlight for you on the page. It says Grace to Celebrate in 2014. I'll just point out a few things for you here. There's a really cool phenomenon here at the top of your page. If you see our attendance growth, 29% in the last 6 months, okay? And then if you look at our giving growth, what's our giving growth? 73%. Here is what's been happening. 1 year ago this summer, I stood on this stage and I said, I think God has been convicting me and us that we're not as generous as we think we are. We have a percentage of really generous people that are carrying a large share of the work, and we have a large percentage of people that aren't as generous, and we need to address that with the gospel. And I became convicted that if Jesus talks about money out of one of every sermon, and I'm going to be like Jesus, I need to talk about money a little more than I had. And so we talked about the picture I felt like the Lord gave me, and again, I'm not a prophet nor son of a prophet, although my dad does run a nonprofit. You'll get that on the way home. But I felt like the Lord gave me a picture of our church family, and it was this massive, glorious, big iceberg, and frozen inside that iceberg were all these resources. And they were resources that had been given by God to be used for the work of the kingdom, and they got froze in the iceberg. And the iceberg was made up not of snow, the iceberg was made up of fear, of idolatry, of need for security and comfort. The iceberg was covetousness, the iceberg was materialism, the iceberg was need for more stuff. And the picture was, I felt the Lord saying, I want to shine the sun of my gospel on the iceberg of people's idolatry, that it might melt that away and release funds and resources to flow downstream to water the field of the gospel that you're working in currently. So you remember me giving you that picture last summer? And so we went into our treasure campaign, and we spent 8 or 10 weeks talking about Jesus, money, and the gospel, and stewardship, and treasure, and happiness, and all those kinds of things. And what we've seen happen from the end of the treasure campaign to when our fiscal year ended in the end of June is that we haven't had a huge bump in attendance, although 30% isn't nothing to sneeze at. We haven't had a huge bump in attendance, but we've had a massive bump in giving. And in fact, I think in April the number was 86%. And then April, June, July, things kind of plateaued a little bit for the summer. And currently, our giving is up 70, what did it say here? 73% from 1 year ago to today. That's a massive evidence of God's grace to us, because what it tells us is, it's not as if more people came and started giving. What it tells us is more people who were already here have started giving. Isn't that awesome? So, is my mic on, Alex? Are people clapping out there? Anybody? I mean, your second service, you're supposed to be awake. Come on here, people. Look alive out there. So, lots of really good news to celebrate and get excited about. My favorite number on here is the 59 new givers. That's 59 new giving units, meaning these are people who were here, were being ministered to, were serving, but had yet to surrender this significant piece of their life in giving. And this giving unit is households, and so this is hundreds of people represented here. And we've had almost 60 new time givers, and this isn't like, $5 in a bucket because I felt guilty from Pastor Josh. This is like, no, God's changed my heart. I want to stop watching and I want to start playing. I'm going to start obeying Jesus with my money. I'm going to surrender that to Him because I realize my heart needs it as a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly means of grace to remind myself that what I can put my hands around isn't as important as what I could let go of and start serving and reaching, put my arms around, and what I could give through resourcing the kingdom. So, lots of super really cool stuff going on here. The $60,000 we've given to church planting, missions, and mercy just in these 6 months. We have budgeted about 15% of our annual budget to give because we feel like we want to model corporately to you what we're calling you to do individually, and that's to be generous with the money the Lord entrusts to you, both in how you allocate it to care for yourself so you can have a strong platform to serve others from, and as well as what you give. We got 113 Grace Kids registrations. That number just blows my mind. That means in the last 6 months, there's been over 100 new children in Grace Kids, and I think we've probably birthed about 100 of those. I'm not kidding. Man, it's like in the water around here or something. I love it. It's one of my favorite church growth strategies my wife and I have taken up. It's just, have more kids, right? Okay, let's keep going here. So 113 new kids, and that's just perspective for how much work our Grace Kids workers are doing. They are caring for people well, loving and serving families. We know for a fact lots of unbelievers are coming, hearing the gospel. We love having them come, and one of the ways we serve them is take care of their kids. And we promise them 3 things: that they'll be taken care of, they'll be safe, they'll have a ton of fun, they'll hear about Jesus. So they're freed up to being here, being served by the gospel as well. So if you see a Grace Kids worker, give them a huge high five, hug, and a kiss, and tell them to keep it up. I haven't met one disgruntled Grace Kids worker yet. They're not in there going like, this is where I do my penance in here. You know what I mean? I come out with, if I get thrown up 3 times, I know I got to be going to heaven. they're in there going, I was born for this. I'm called to this. I live for Sunday morning to care for these little babies. I mean, if your baby's in there, that little baby's getting prayed over right now. They love to pray over kids. So just a really good thing happening there. Love, Laura Strong, one of our deacons, how she's organizing that ministry there. Pretty cool. We got a bunch of new members, open house stuff going on. And then we've launched 6 new gospel communities. And just for perspective, when we started organizing ourselves around community groups and gospel communities, we started with 7, I believe, and a couple of them didn't make it at the end of the year. And that we had 7 for like a year and a half. That was 4 years ago. And now in less than 6 months, we've multiplied and launched almost as many as we started with 4 years ago, which is so cool. More people are getting equipped in the gospel. They're living in community on mission with the good news of Jesus Christ. And so we're seeing actually a really cool number to throw at you. I probably lost you by now, so for the 3 still listening, this is for you. One of the really cool things is we used to have a significant portion of our funds going out for mercy needs. As we've grown, that number's gone down. And first we were like worried, like, why is this happening? Then we realized what's been happening is a majority of our body's just ongoing daily, weekly, monthly mercy needs are being met in community through gospel community, which is so cool because it takes out the centralized piece of us having to do that. You're just doing it on your own. Isn't that awesome? That's freeing up resources for us to get the big picture stuff and more strategic things. And so lots of things to be excited about. We baptized, and get your clapper ready, we baptized more people in 6 months than we baptized in the first 3 years of our church family. Isn't that awesome? Love that. I love that. So cool. I was talking to Chris. We were looking over the numbers. We realized we've given away to missions and to church planting and to global missions. We've given away the equivalent of the first 2 years of money we received as a church family. And so we love to be generous here as a church, and we're grateful for you who are partnering with us in that. So this is just a little bit of a report to give you an idea of where we're at and where we're going. If you want more details, you can read that report. We'll put it online for you.